Hello and welcome everybody. I am the IT guy, and in this video we're gonna go over how you can set up your computer so that clicking stuff goes automatically. Now, just to give you a little bit of a heads up, this is just a little bit of a video where I give you the tools to do whatever you want. I'm not gonna really go over how to do certain things. At the end of the video there is a certain thing that I did with Hearthstone. So if you do not know what Hearthstone is, it's basically a card game made by Blizzard, and there is a thing where you have to disenchant cards in order to get some dust. But there are a lot of cards in Hearthstone, so automating the clicking was a good idea in my case. So that's why I came up with this solution, and that's why I thought that maybe some of you guys might be interested in seeing how that all works. So what we'll need is actually, first of all, we're of course going to need Python, because Python is a programming language in which we are going to write the script to do all these things. I'm working on a virtual machine over here, so I'm going to start from scratch. So I just have a clean Windows installation. I'm going to show you how to do this on Windows. These things should also work on Linux or Mac. The only difference is, of course, you'll need to figure out how to install Python and everything else like VS Code on Linux. But writing the script should work in any operating system, but I'm going to show you this in Windows because that's where I use the script to do some of the automation in Hearthstone. So without further ado, let's just start. Let's go to our web browser here. We're going to go over to python.org to start off. We're going to download Python, and we can go over to downloads and just click the latest version right over here. And that's downloading over here. In the meanwhile, we can go over to VS Code. Just type that in Google or in Bing, wherever. Go over to code.visualstudio.com. and you can download the latest version over here. So that's downloading as well. And then we're also going to need something called PyAutoGUI, and you can find that over here, pyAutoGUI.readthedocs.io. And this is the documentation for Python, and we're going to go over to installation. But let's just keep this open right now, and let's start by installing Python on our PC. Make sure you select add Python 3.8 to path, or if you're watching this video in the future, maybe there's a later version of Python, make sure you add Python to the path because it's going to be a lot easier to run the commands that way. So just go ahead and click install now. Go ahead and click yes. There is an IDE, so there is like a program in which you can write your code in. Included in Python, but we're going to use VS Code because I find it a lot easier. And if you're going to maybe write some scripts in the future, I think that VS Code is the better choice here, just because it's easier to use and you have so many different possibilities, and it's better to just use one IDE or one file editor to write all of your code. So there we go. The setup was successful. We can close this up. You don't need to select this one over here. You can go ahead and close that. And next up, let's install VS Code, which is a open source program from Microsoft. Let's go ahead and select all of these because it's pretty handy to have those, to have that in the context menu. Go ahead and click install over here, and it's just a file editor that's being used a lot, and a lot of people seem to like it, and there's a lot of extensions for it, so I would recommend you use Visual Studio Code. So let's go ahead and launch it immediately, and let's make this a little bit bigger. And let's go over to extensions, and this is an optional step. You don't need to do this right now, but I do find it handy to install the Python debugger, so the Python extension. If it doesn't pop up in here, you can just type in Python and it will pop up over here, and you can go ahead and install that. There we go. And next up, what we'll need to do is we'll need to make sure that we have the Pi Auto GUI installed. So we're going to install this using pip, but you can also use, but it's possible that it's not installed by default. So if you want to make sure that it is installed, go ahead and go over to start. You're going to go over to the command prompt over here. What we're going to do is we're going to type in pi -m, and then we're going to do space, and then we're going to do ensure pip. And this will make sure that pip is installed. So by default, it should be installed, but in some cases, it's not installed by default. So typing in pi -m, ensure pip will make sure that pip is also installed. And then we also just need to copy this over here. So pi -m pip install pi auto GUI. Just type that into the command prompt, and that will install pi auto GUI for us. And this is the tool that we're going to use to automate our mouse clicks. So there we go, Pi Auto GUI is installed. Actually, we don't need the command prompt anymore, so just type in exit and we can go ahead and exit out of there. So let's first of all start off with a new file. So click new file, and we're going to save that immediately, save as, and you can name it whatever you want. So we're going to do this automate mouse, whatever, but make sure that the extension ends with .py, or you can just name it whatever you want, and then you can just select Python from the drop-down list, and you just select Python and click save, and this will automatically add the .py extension to it. So let's close everything up over here. Let's close that up as well. And so to automate clicking, it's very handy to know where your mouse position is. So that's the first thing we're going to make sure we have. So I'm going to select this folder over here. Oh, oops. Looks like I need to open this folder over here. So we have our working directory. There we go. Okay, so we're all set up to start editing our file. But first of all, we're going to do some stuff in the Python terminal, or the Python interface, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to start off with importing our Pi Auto GUI module. This is the first thing we are going to need. And let's just say, for example, that I want to click on a certain location. So let's just say I want to click on the start menu. So what we'll do is we're going to type in pi auto GUI dot position. We're going to close the brackets, and let's move our mouse over to the location where the start button is, and let's run that command. So what it says right now is that our X coordinate is 90 and our Y coordinate is 1086. So we're going to need to remember those coordinates. Now we're going to do the same thing for whatever we want. So let's just click our start menu. And let's say we want to open the calculator, which is located over here. So the way I did this, it's pretty tricky, but you just keep the mouse cursor over here, and then just press the start button on your keyboard, and then just do control just alt tab to the Python to the Python terminal over here, and then just run the command again. So now we know that the second coordinates are X is 125 and Y is 783. Okay, so that's basically all we need to do. We're not going to do anything special right now. If you want to do a little bit more special things, then I would suggest you go over to the Python cheat sheets, to the Pi Auto GUI cheat sheets. Over there, you can find a lot of information about the functions included in Pi Auto GUI. This is just a little bit of a taste of how Pi Auto GUI actually works. So let's start writing the script. So first of all, we're also going to need to import Pi Auto GUI over here. And what we're going to do then is we're going to move the mouse cursor over to the location that we want to click. In this case, I'm going to just click the start menu, and the start menu was at 19 and 1068. So we're going to do Pi Auto GUI dot move to, and move to, make sure that 2 is capitalized. We're going to specify the X coordinate, which was 19, and the Y coordinate was 1068. So we're going to do 19. Oops, looks like my numlock was not on. So 19, comma, and 168. So that's the first thing you do. And the next thing we do is we're going to type in pi_auto_GUI.click, and this will click. This will perform a mouse click on the position that our mouse is in. Now watch what happens when I do the following. So we're going to do pi_auto_GUI.click .move to, .move to, and the following coordinates were 125 and 783. So 125, 783, and after that we also want to perform a click. So pi_auto_GUI.click, close the brackets. So let's save this, and now let's run our file. And it doesn't work out, and the reason why it didn't is, first of all, I think that one of the coordinates was off. So that's the first thing. So let's see if the coordinates were correct. So this coordinate is correct. Let's try that again. So watch what happens. It doesn't work the way it should. It clicks on a random location that it shouldn't click at. So that is because we didn't provide any timing on how fast it should click it, because what happens right now is it immediately clicks after it moves over to the following coordinates. So let's just say we add 0.3 to that. Let's run this command again. And right now you can see that the mouse actually clicked the calculator, and that is because we provided a little bit of time for the start menu to actually open. Because what happens is when it opens, it immediately clicks over there, and it doesn't have any time to fully open up. And if we give it like 0.3 seconds to open, then the start menu is completely open, and we can click the location that we wanted, which was the calculator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a video that I filmed myself at the end of this video, where you can see this script in action. So what it actually does is it automatically clicks certain locations on the screen, and that's how I automated the disenchanting of my Hearthstone cards. I had a lot of Hearthstone cards that were wild, and wild cards are not included in the standard mode of the game. I'm gonna save you the explanation on how that all works, but basically I had a lot of cards that I wanted to disenchant, but there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So that's why I thought, hey, let's write this script with pi_auto_GUI, and it worked out perfectly. And this is one of the use cases where you can use pi_auto_GUI to automate that clicking. If you also have hundreds and hundreds of repetitive movements like disenchanting Hearthstone cards, then you can automate that with pi_auto_GUI, and actually that works perfectly. So now on to the portion of the video where I show you guys how to actually use this pi_auto_GUI tool to disenchant your Hearthstone cards automatically. So I would suggest you take a little bit of caution if you do have a lot of legendaries and stuff like that. But it should work out if you're just disenchanting commons. So the best way to do it is, let me go over to Hearthstone first of all. And the best way to do it is actually to filter on all cards, and then make sure that if you only want to disenchant the wild sets, which I already did, you make sure that you filter on wild sets. So all of my wild cards have been disenchanted. I only have standard cards, but I'm going to do this with a couple of cards that I actually don't use anymore. Let's see here. It doesn't really matter actually. Let me take one of the classics. Let me disenchant this Wisp. I don't really use it. So I'm going to show you how this is going to work. So there are some pitfalls over here. So for example, when I would do this with legendaries that cannot be cannot be crafted, it will skip over those because when it right clicks there is no disenchant button. So that's a little bit of a problem in this script. You could eventually write a script that skips over these cards, but generally the amount of uncraftable cards is so little that you won't really have any issues with it. So I didn't bother to add that in because it would make the script very, very complicated and not really fit for this video. So basically what's going to happen is we're going to automate the script to do this basic movement, right? So what's going to happen is we're going to go over to this location. It's going to right click, it's going to click disenchant, it's going to click confirm, and then it's going to click disenchant again, and then it's going to click over here, which will bring up the original menu, and then this card will be gone, and then the next card will be here, and it will repeat that action over and over and over again. So onto the script that I wrote. So this is the script over here. So basically what's going to happen is, first of all, we're going to import that Auto GUI, and then it's going to ask us the amount of cards we want to disenchant. So this is the amount of cards that appears on your screen. So if you want to disenchant this entire page over here, it's not going to ask you the amount of cards, it's going to ask you the amount of well, actually the amount of figures, or whatever you want to call it. So the ×2 stack does not count as a card. So this is a card, that's a card, that's a card, that's a card. So even if you have like 2 of each, the loop, so the for loop that I wrote, which I'm going to explain in a minute, actually loops over 1 card each time. And even if there is only 1 card, it's just going to repeat the action once, so it doesn't really take up that much time. But do keep that in mind so you don't disenchant more cards than you wanted. So onto the script. So the script actually says that you have to enter a number of cards, and what we're going to do is we're going to loop a couple of actions. We're going to loop these actions a couple of times depending on the number of cards you entered over here. So this is actually a for loop. If you do not know what a for loop is, basically it loops over a number of times. So that's a for loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 4x in range cards. So this is just for loop. This is just what you write when you want to say like 4x number of times. So you're just going to write 4x in range, and then range, in between range you say cards, and the cards is going to be a value that we input here. So we make sure that it's a number with using the integer option over here, and then we just ask the user how many cards that they want to disenchant. You enter a number, that number gets put in here, and then it loops over a number of times depending on the amount you entered here. So what it basically does is it moves over to a certain location. So it moves over to 426, which is over here somewhere. It right clicks, as you can see. So click is button equals right Auto GUI.move. It moves over to the location where the disenchant button is. It then moves over to the location where, well, we did one, where the agree button is. Let's just remove those cards to worthless anyway. And it does that over and over again, and then at the end it clicks over here, so the card disappears. So let's run this script. I'm going to move it over to my other monitor. First of all, let's run it. So first of all, we'll see that it wants to that it asks you how many cards you want to disenchant. So let's just say we want to disenchant. Let's take another page maybe, or let's just say we want to disenchant 2 cards. Let's just say 2 cards, this one and this one. So we're going to enter 2 over here, but now we're going to have to move our we're going to have to run the script on the other monitor over here. So I'm going to run the script right now. So you don't see me running the script because, you know, it's very difficult to show it on the monitor. Otherwise it's going to click other locations. So I'm going to run the script right now. And as you can see, that's what it does, and it does that again, and it does that, and then it stops. So we did that 2 times, and you can do this any number of times you want, and the script is just going to automate the clicking for you, and it just depends on the number of cards you want to disenchant, and it makes it pretty easy to do so. So I'm gonna leave it at that, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below if you want to, and if you want to see more of my videos, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.